Your heart races right before you have to speak in front of a room. You feel that familiar knot tighten in your stomach before a crucial conversation. This shaky, uncertain feeling is as old as humanity itself. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." He was wrestling with the same internal battle we face today, the search for a confidence that does not falter when the pressure mounts. This video will give you a complete toolkit of ancient Stoic methods to build a steady, unshakable confidence that is immune to external chaos. We will explore how true confidence comes not from hoping for a certain outcome, but from mastering your judgments, from understanding what is truly within your power, and from aligning your actions with timeless virtues. The promise is a confidence built on bedrock, not sand. What is the one external outcome you rely on most for your own sense of certainty? Stoic confidence is not about feeling sure you will succeed. It is about being sure of your character. This is the core of the entire philosophy, a radical shift in how we define what is truly good. For the Stoics, the only genuine good is a virtuous character, expressed through your actions. Everything else, from wealth and reputation to health, and even the outcomes of your efforts, they classified as preferred or dispreferred indifferents. They matter, but they do not determine your worth. Your confidence, therefore, should be anchored in the one thing you can always control, your choice to act with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Whisper that you could have acted with more integrity in that moment. What if the key to confidence was knowing precisely what you can and cannot change? This single question unlocks the Stoics' most practical tool, the dichotomy of control. It is a simple, systematic sorting of every single thing in your life into two clear categories. The first is everything within your power, your own judgments, your intentions, your desires, and your actions. The second is everything not within your power, which is essentially everything else, from your body and possessions to your reputation and the actions of other people. The philosopher Epictetus began his entire handbook with this very idea, stating, "Some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, and in a word, whatever is of our own doing." This is not just a philosophical observation, it is an operational manual for your peace of mind. Confidence grows not from trying to control the uncontrollable, but from investing all of your energy and attention into the domain you actually govern, your own choices. Consider a modern scenario: receiving harsh critical feedback on a project you worked hard on. Your initial reaction might be a surge of defensiveness or a sinking feeling of inadequacy, emotions tied directly to the uncontrollable. You cannot control the critic's tone, their past experiences that color their view, or their immediate emotional reaction. If you tie your confidence to their approval, you hand them the keys to your self-worth. The Stoic method redirects you. You take a mental step back and apply the sorting filter. What is within your control here? You can control listening fully without interruption. You can control evaluating the feedback for useful truths, separating the message from the delivery. You can control deciding what, if anything, to improve for next time. You can even control your response, whether it is a simple thank you for the perspective or a thoughtful question for clarity. By focusing your effort here on your sphere, you reclaim your agency. The sting of the criticism loses its power because your confidence is now anchored in your own reasoned response, not their unpredictable opinion. This is how the dichotomy builds steady confidence, by freeing you from the exhausting and impossible task of managing the external world and turning your effort inward where real change happens. So let us make this personal for a moment. Pause and think of 3 things causing you a low level of anxiety right now. It could be a future meeting, a relationship tension, or a financial concern. Now, mentally place each one on the list. Is your worry focused on another person's behavior or on your own? Is it about an outcome you cannot guarantee or the quality of your preparation? This simple act of categorization is not about dismissing your concerns. It is about clarifying where your power truly lies. Often, we discover that our mental energy is spent wrestling with ghosts, with outcomes and opinions we were never meant to command. And in that realization, a new kind of calm can begin because your confidence now has an unshakable anchor, the things you can actually change. Seneca and other Stoics regularly practiced a form of mental fire drill. They called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not the pessimism or anxious rumination we might assume. It is a deliberate, calm exercise in preparedness. The goal is not to dwell on fear, but to disarm it by making the unfamiliar familiar. By visualizing potential setbacks in advance, you are not inviting them. You are rehearsing your own resilient response. You are building a confidence that comes from knowing you have already navigated the worst in your mind, and you survived. Seneca wrote letters where he would vividly imagine losing his wealth, his status, even his home. He did this to prove a vital point to himself, that his peace and his character were not tied to those external things. He stated, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." This mental rehearsal revealed his inner resources, his ability to adapt and find meaning regardless of circumstance. The confidence it built was not in a perfect life, but in his own capacity to meet life. So how does this look for a modern challenge? Think about an upcoming presentation. Instead of just hoping it goes well, you sit quietly and run a mental simulation. You visualize the projector failing. You see the slide not advancing. In your mind's eye, you watch yourself pause, take a breath, and say calmly, "It seems our technology wants to test my memory today," and you continue speaking from your notes. You visualize a tough, skeptical question from the audience. You feel the initial flush of panic, and then you watch yourself acknowledge the question, thank the person for it, and draw from your knowledge to address the core concern. You are not practicing panic. You are practicing virtue, courage to continue, wisdom to adapt, temperance to keep your composure. Each run through this mental simulation builds a neural pathway, making that poised response more automatic and accessible when the real moment arrives. The unknown becomes mapped territory. Your anxiety about the event diminishes because you have already faced its ghosts and discovered your own strength. So reflect on this practical step. What is one upcoming challenge, large or small, that you can premeditate? A difficult conversation, a financial decision, a creative project's potential rejection. Now go deeper than just worrying about it. Ask yourself, if my reasonable worst-case scenario happened, what single virtuous action would I take? Would I respond with patience? Would I seek understanding? Would I simply begin again? Identifying that action is the seed of unshakable confidence. It is the quiet knowledge that no matter what the world brings, you have already decided who you will be in the face of it. The Stoic secret to facing uncertainty is not just acceptance, it is active love. This is the profound practice of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate. It is the deliberate choice to embrace everything that happens, every obstacle, every unexpected turn, not as a setback to endure, but as the essential raw material for your own development. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this, writing in his Meditations, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." He saw each challenge as fuel for the inner fire of his character. This mindset transforms the very nature of confidence. Confidence is no longer a hope that things will go your way. It becomes the deep-seated knowledge that whatever way they go, you will find the value in it and use it to grow. You move from fearing the future to engaging fully with the present, because the present, however it looks, is your training ground. Consider a modern professional facing a sharp disappointment, like being passed over for a promotion they worked intensely to earn. The initial reaction is natural, a wave of frustration and self-doubt. The fragile confidence tied to that specific outcome is shattered, but Amor Fati asks a different question. It does not ask why this happened to you. It asks, what is this happening for? What new strength is this situation inviting me to build? Perhaps this missed opportunity reveals that your true passion lies in a different direction entirely, one you were too busy chasing approval to see. Perhaps it highlights a specific skill gap you can now address with clear focus, making you genuinely undeniable next time. The obstacle becomes the way forward. By loving this fate, by accepting it as necessary for your journey, you disarm its power to paralyze you. Your confidence to act returns, not because you are sure of success, but because you are sure of your ability to extract meaning and momentum from any result. This is the ultimate fuel for action. When you truly believe that every outcome serves your growth, hesitation melts away. You are free to take bold steps, to have difficult conversations, to launch creative projects, not from a place of arrogance, but from a place of curiosity and trust in the process of life itself. The fear of failure loses its sting because failure is reclassified. It is simply data, it is feedback, it is a necessary lesson wrapped in a difficult experience. So here is a challenge for you to reflect on. Look back over your own life and identify one past event that felt like a misfortune at the time. A relationship that ended, a job you lost, a plan that fell completely apart. With a clarity of distance, can you trace how that very event ultimately led you to a significant strength, a crucial insight, or a new path you would not have found otherwise? That is the quiet power of Amor Fati already at work in your story. It is the recognition that the universe is not always gentle, but it is always instructive, and your confidence grows each time you learn to love the lesson. From the edge of the solar system, your entire world is a single pale blue dot, silently suspended in an endless dark. This cosmic perspective was a favorite mental exercise of Marcus Aurelius, a practice he called viewing from above. He would deliberately zoom his mind out past the walls of his palace, beyond the borders of his empire, to see the earth as a mere speck and his own life as a fleeting whisper within it. This was not an exercise in nihilism, but in liberation. It shrinks the ego-driven anxieties that feel so monumental in the moment, revealing their true scale against the backdrop of eternity. Confidence born from this perspective is a calm composure, the understanding that your current crisis is but one note in a vast, unfolding symphony. Marcus wrote in his Meditations, "Keep before your eyes the swiftness with which all that exists and is coming to be is swept past us and carried away. For all substance is like a river in ceaseless flow, and all our actions are ever changing." This was his reminder that the petty slight from a colleague, the minor embarrassment, the temporary setback, all of it is already flowing into the past. When you see your life from this vantage point, you stop confusing the momentary for the monumental. What truly matters comes into sharp focus: your character, your integrity, your contribution to the whole. The need for external validation diminishes, because you are playing a part in a story far grander than any single social circle or professional arena. Take the common modern experience of social anxiety, the dread of walking into a room full of strangers, worried about saying the wrong thing or being judged. In that moment, the event feels like the entire universe, and your performance within it feels critically important. Now, apply the view from above. This gathering is one of billions happening across the planet tonight. The people in this room are each carrying their own invisible burdens, their own hopes and insecurities, most of them far too preoccupied with their own internal worlds to scrutinize yours with the intensity you fear. This single evening is a tiny, fleeting moment in the long sweep of human history. From the cosmic perspective, does that awkward comment you might make truly hold any lasting weight? This practice does not make the event unimportant, but it rightly sizes it. It drains the paralyzing fear of judgment and replaces it with a quieter confidence to simply be present, to connect where you can, and to let go of the need to control every impression. The next time you feel overwhelmed, whether by a conflict at work or a personal worry that loops in your mind, pause and mentally zoom out. See your street from the sky, your city from orbit, your continent from space. Watch the planet turn, carrying billions of lives, each with their own struggles and joys, all unfolding simultaneously. Then bring your focus back to your specific concern. How has your perception of it shifted? Does it still demand the same amount of your emotional energy, or can you now see it as a manageable part of a much larger, more beautiful, and more enduring whole? This is the steady confidence of perspective. The unshakable calm that comes from knowing your place in the cosmos is both insignificant and profoundly connected. Think of your initial reaction to any event as raw data, not a directive. This is the heart of a Stoic practice called cognitive distancing, the art of stepping back from your immediate impressions to examine them with calm objectivity. It is the space between what happens and how you choose to respond, and in that space lies your true power and confidence. The Stoics called this process withholding assent. An impression hits you, a feeling, a thought, a surge of emotion. Your old reactive self might instantly agree with it, letting it dictate your next move. But the practiced Stoic learns to pause. They see the impression for what it is, a piece of information to be evaluated, not a command to be obeyed. Epictetus made this distinction brilliantly clear when he taught, people are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them. The event itself is neutral. It is the judgment you layer on top of it that creates your emotional world, and therefore your confidence or your fear. Let us make this tangible with a modern moment everyone knows too well. You open your email and see a message from a colleague. It is terse, devoid of the usual pleasantries, and ends with a pointed question about a project delay. The raw data, the initial impression, floods your system. It screams, "They are furious with me. This is a disaster. I am in trouble." If you give immediate assent to that impression, your confidence evaporates. Your heart races. You might fire back a defensive reply, or you might spend the next hour paralyzed, ruminating on every possible thing you did wrong. Now apply cognitive distancing. You notice the impression. You literally name it to yourself. I am having the impression that this email means I am in serious trouble. This simple act of naming creates the vital space. Now, from that space, you can examine the data more objectively. What are the facts? The email is brief. It mentions a delay. It asks a question. That is all you truly know. Your judgment that this constitutes a personal disaster is just one interpretation, and likely not the most useful one. A more rational, examined judgment could be, I have incomplete information. This person may be under immense pressure themselves. My confident response is to seek clarity, not assume blame. You then craft a reply that is calm and solution-oriented, asking for a quick call to align on next steps. Your confidence remained steady, not because the email was pleasant, but because you did not let the initial impression hijack your reason. You governed your judgment, and in doing so, you governed your response. This practice builds a confidence that is resilient because it is rooted in clarity, not in the avoidance of discomfort. You become less afraid of strong emotions because you know they are not the final word. They are just the first signal, data to be processed. So take a moment for a reflective exercise. Cast your mind back to a recent situation where you had a strong emotional reaction, perhaps a flash of anger in traffic, a spike of anxiety before a meeting, or a deep sense of hurt from an offhand comment. Can you recall the raw impression? Try to name it now as simply as possible. the impression was, this person is trying to disrespect me, or the impression was, I am going to fail spectacularly. Then ask yourself, what was the judgment I applied in that heated moment? Did I assent to the impression fully? And now, with the benefit of this distance, what might a more objective, useful judgment have been? This is not about suppressing emotion, but about engaging with it intelligently. Each time you create that space between impression and judgment, you are strengthening the mental muscle of steady confidence, training yourself to respond from a place of choice, not a place of chaos. Your most powerful source of confidence is a fortress no outside force can ever breach. Marcus Aurelius called this the Inner Citadel, a sanctuary of the mind built not of stone, but of reason and virtue. This is the Stoic vision of an inviolable self, a core identity so clearly defined and so diligently governed that the chaos of the world, the shifting winds of opinion, and the sting of misfortune cannot corrupt its foundations. Your confidence in its most steady form is simply the quiet knowledge that this fortress exists within you, and that you can retreat there to find clarity and strength whenever you need it. In his private writings, Marcus Aurelius often spoke of this retreat, noting, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the sea, in the mountains. But this is altogether unphilosophical when you can at any hour retreat into yourself, for nowhere can a person find a more peaceful and less troubled retreat than in his own soul." This inner citadel is not a place of escape from reality, but a command center from which to engage with reality from a position of unshakable self-trust. Consider two people receiving the same piece of harsh, public criticism. The first person has no fortified inner citadel. Their sense of self is constructed from the opinions of others like a house of cards. The criticism feels like a hurricane scattering their identity. They may lash out in anger, collapse into shame, or frantically seek reassurance, their entire emotional state held hostage by an external voice. The second person has spent time building their inner fortress. They hear the same words and they feel the initial sting, the raw impression, but then they retreat into their citadel. From that place of calm, they evaluate the critique against their own principles, the walls of their fortress. Does this feedback align with my commitment to growth, a principle of wisdom? Does responding with patience and clarity align with my virtue of temperance? They can sift the useful grain of truth from the chaff of mere insult, accept what serves their development, and calmly disregard what does not. Their confidence remains steady, not because the criticism was pleasant, but because their core self was never under threat. The attack happened outside the walls. This is the ultimate self-trust, knowing that your worth and your peace are not commodities others can approve or revoke. So let us make this practical for a moment. This requires a moment of honest reflection. What are the three foundational principles that form the walls of your own inner citadel? These are not goals or outcomes, but timeless virtues that define who you choose to be, regardless of circumstance. Perhaps your first wall is integrity, a commitment to speak and act in alignment with your deepest truths. Your second might be compassion, the choice to meet others, even in conflict, with a desire to understand rather than to condemn. Your third could be resilience, the principle of learning and adapting from every experience, especially the difficult ones. Once you name these principles, you give your inner citadel its architecture. The next time a situation shakes you, you can ask a powerful question from within those walls. How do I act in a way that defends and honors these principles? Your confident action flows from that answer, not from a reactive fear or a desperate need for approval. This is how you build a confidence that endures, stone by chosen stone, principle by lived principle, until you possess a sanctuary of self that no storm can ever breach. The Stoics kept skulls on their desks not to be morbid but to be liberated. This practice, known as Memento Mori, which translates to remember you must die, is perhaps their most misunderstood tool. It is not a dark obsession with an end, but a bright, clarifying light on the present. It is the ultimate tool for building a confidence charged with urgency, yet free from anxiety. By holding the finitude of life gently in mind, you are not paralyzed by fear, you are empowered to act. All those trivial worries, the social anxieties, the perfectionism that leads to procrastination, they begin to melt away when viewed against the backdrop of a limited and precious timeline. Your confidence gains a new quality, a decisive clarity about what truly deserves your energy and attention. The Stoic philosopher Seneca captured this human contradiction perfectly when he observed, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We fear embarrassment as if it will last forever, yet we delay our most meaningful work as if we have endless tomorrows. Memento Mori corrects both errors. It reminds you that the sting of a minor embarrassment is fleeting, and that the dream you are postponing has a closing date. This remembrance shrinks the former and vitalizes the latter, creating a powerful confidence to engage with what matters right now. Think of a difficult conversation you have been putting off, perhaps with a family member or a colleague. The anxiety holding you back is often a fear of conflict, of an uncomfortable moment that might stretch into an awkward hour. Now apply the lens of Memento Mori. In the full span of a life, how much weight does that single uncomfortable hour truly hold? Is it worth more than the potential for resolution, understanding, or peace that could last for years? The practice does not make the conversation easy, but it makes the reason for having it undeniable. It grants you the confidence to initiate because you see the greater cost of silence. Or consider a creative project, a book, a business idea, a piece of art that lives only in your notes and your daydreams. You tell yourself you will start when you have more time, when you feel more ready, when conditions are perfect. Remembering that your time is not infinite, that conditions may never be perfect, shatters that illusion. It replaces the vague confidence of someday with the actionable confidence of today. You begin not because you are sure of the outcome, but because you are sure that not trying is a far greater loss. So here is a question to sit with, one that turns this ancient practice into immediate fuel. If you knew with gentle certainty that your time was more limited than you typically assume, what one thing would you do with more confidence this week? Would you finally voice that idea in a meeting? Would you set that boundary you have been avoiding? Would you share your creative work, even if it feels incomplete? Identifying that single action is the first step. The confidence to take it comes from the profound understanding that this day, this moment, is the only one you are ever guaranteed to use. What if your lack of confidence stems not from ability, but from wanting the wrong things? This is the profound territory of the Stoic discipline of desire, the first of their 3 core practices. It teaches that true, steady confidence is not about getting what you want, but about learning to want only what strengthens your character and remains firmly within your power. We often believe our anxiety comes from not achieving our goals, but the Stoics suggest the deeper issue is the goal itself, if it is anchored outside our sphere of control. When your deepest wants are tied to external outcomes, you are setting yourself up for a confidence that is perpetually unstable, because the world is unpredictable and often indifferent to your plans. The philosopher Epictetus framed this with startling clarity, stating that happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle: some things are within our power and some things are not. He argued that our desires must be trained to align only with that first category. This is not about suppressing ambition or ceasing to care about results. It is about shifting the primary object of your desire from the trophy to the quality of your effort, from the approval of others to the integrity of your own conduct. Confidence, then, blossoms from the certainty that you are pursuing the only thing you can ever truly attain, your own virtuous action. Consider the desire for a perfect outcome on a major project. You pour your energy into it, but your confidence becomes tied to a specific result, like a glowing review or a flawless launch. The days leading up to the reveal are filled with tension because your peace depends on an event in the future that you cannot command. The discipline of desire asks you to reformulate that want. Instead of desiring the perfect outcome, you train yourself to desire only to give your absolute best effort, to act with diligence, creativity, and thoroughness. You desire to learn from the process, to collaborate with fairness, and to present your work with clarity. These are all desires within your power. Now your confidence is present the moment you begin the work. It is the quiet assurance that you are doing what is excellent, regardless of the reception. The outcome becomes feedback, not the source of your self-worth. This realignment is the source of a profound contentment, a confidence that feels like solid ground beneath your feet because it is built on actions you choose every single day. So here is a direct challenge for you to reflect on. Examine one strong desire you are holding right now. It might be for a particular promotion, for a relationship to mend in a certain way, or for a creative endeavor to be met with acclaim. Now ask the Stoic filter, is this desire for something entirely within my control? If the answer is no, and it often is, do not dismiss the want. Instead, reformulate it. How can you shift the desire from the uncontrollable outcome to a virtuous action you can take within the process? If you desire the promotion, can you shift that to desiring to perform your current role with such excellence and leadership that you become undeniable? If you desire a mended relationship, can you shift that to desiring to communicate with honesty and patience, regardless of the other person's response? This subtle but monumental shift in what you want is the secret to a confidence that no external event can ever take from you. Stoicism is not a passive retreat from the world. It is a philosophy of courageous action for the benefit of all. This is the second core discipline, the discipline of action, where steady confidence finds its most powerful expression in the world. After training your desires to align with what is within your power, you now turn that clarified intention outward. You act with purpose, justice, and kindness, fulfilling your roles as a professional, a family member, a citizen, or a friend, while simultaneously releasing your grip on the specific results of those actions. Your confidence stems from the quality of your engagement itself, not from the applause that may or may not follow. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one and do your job as a human being, as if the whole universe depended on it." He constantly reminded himself to act as if the eyes of the world were upon him, not for vanity, but for accountability to the common good. This shifts the entire motivation for action. You are not acting to be seen or to secure a particular reward. You are acting because it is the right thing to do, because your role in the interconnected web of humanity calls for it. The outcome, whether your effort succeeds or fails by external measures, is secondary. Your confidence is in the action itself, in knowing you showed up with integrity. Consider the act of volunteering for a community project, perhaps cleaning a local park. The modern, fragile approach might be to participate primarily for the social recognition, the photo opportunity, or the personal satisfaction of a job well done. If it rains and the turnout is low, or if the project feels overwhelming, that confidence evaporates into frustration. The Stoic approach is different. Your confident action begins with the simple decision to contribute to the common good. You show up, you pick up litter, you connect with fellow volunteers, you perform your role with diligence and a spirit of cooperation. The success of the entire park cleanup is not solely within your power. It depends on weather, on others, on 100 variables, but your contribution is entirely within your command. Your confidence remains steady because it is anchored in that contribution, not in the final state of the park. Even if a storm washes away your work tomorrow, your action was still virtuous, still meaningful. It strengthened your character and, in some small way, the community. Now apply this to a professional team project. Confidence tied to the project's launch metrics or to personal credit is brittle. It leads to territorial behavior, fear of sharing ideas, and anxiety as the launch date nears. But confidence rooted in the discipline of action looks like this. You focus on contributing your very best work for the benefit of the team and the end user. You share information freely, you support colleagues, you act with justice and kindness in every interaction. You do your job as if the whole project depended on your ethical conduct, because in a way it does. The project's ultimate market success is influenced by countless external factors, but your virtuous engagement is not. You can walk away from any outcome with your confidence intact because you know you acted well. This is how you engage with the world boldly, without fear of failure, because failure is redefined. The only true failure is a failure to act with virtue. So here is a question to carry with you today. In your most important role right now, whether as a leader, a creator, a parent, or a friend, what would one confident, virtuous action look like if you focused solely on the quality of your contribution, completely detached from how it is received? Your mind has a gatekeeper, and Stoicism teaches you how to train it. This is the final and most subtle discipline, the discipline of assent. It is the rigorous practice of examining every initial impression that enters your awareness and withholding your automatic agreement until you have determined if it is true, reasonable, and useful. Where the discipline of desire aligns your wants and the discipline of action guides your deeds, assent governs your very perceptions, the bedrock of your confidence. Epictetus described this gatekeeper's role with perfect clarity when he taught, "Do not be carried away by the vividness of the impression, but say, 'Impression, wait for me a little. Let me see what you are and what you represent. Let me test you.' This pause, this moment of testing, is where your freedom and your confidence are truly forged. It prevents you from being a passive passenger to every passing thought and emotion, and instead makes you the discerning pilot of your own mind. Your convictions become confident because they have been examined, not just inherited from a moment's fear or a flash of insecurity. Consider the common experience of imposter syndrome. You are about to step into a new role, present your work, or lead a meeting. The raw impression arrives, sharp and immediate, whispering, "You are a fraud." They are going to find out you do not belong here. Without the discipline of assent, you might instantly agree. You might nod along with that internal voice, letting it shape your posture, your tone, and your decisions, draining your confidence before you even begin. But a trained gatekeeper intervenes. It hears the impression and says, "Wait, let me test you." It then examines the evidence. Does this impression concern what is in my power? No, it is a prediction about others' hidden judgments which I cannot control. Is it based on fact? I was selected for this role. I have completed the training. I have succeeded in challenges before. A more factual, examined judgment emerges. I have the skills required for this moment, and I am fully capable of learning what I do not yet know. The initial impression is not denied or suppressed. It is simply not granted automatic authority. Your confidence is no longer a fragile hope that the imposter feeling will stay away. It is the steady knowledge that you can meet that feeling with reason and choose a more empowering truth. This practice applies to every domain of life. You receive a brief text message from a friend that feels cold. The impression is, they are angry with me. Assent asks you to pause. What is the actual data? The words are neutral. The tone is my interpretation. Perhaps they are simply busy or distracted. By withholding immediate agreement with the worst-case story, you avoid spiraling into anxiety and can respond with calm curiosity instead of defensive worry. Your confidence in the relationship stems from your ability to manage your own perceptions, not from controlling their communication, or you make a minor mistake in a report. The impression screams, "You have ruined everything." the gatekeeper steps in, testing the impression against reality. The mistake is one item on one page. It is correctable. The judgment of ruination is a massive overstatement. The confident response is to calmly correct the error and proceed, your self-trust intact because you did not let a small error become a catastrophic story. So here is a direct instruction for your own practice. Become a gentle skeptic of your very next negative thought. When that familiar wave of doubt or criticism washes in, do not ride it. Instead, pause and ask it two simple questions. What solid evidence supports this thought, and what solid evidence refutes it? You are not trying to force positivity, you are seeking objectivity. Often, you will find the impression is built on a feeling, not a fact, and by choosing to assent only to the facts, you build a confidence in your perceptions that is unshakable because it is honest, reasoned, and truly your own. Ancient Stoics saw the universe as a single, living organism, and us as its conscious parts. They called this profound interconnectedness Sympatheia, a belief that everything is woven together in a rational, harmonious order. This is not a mystical idea, but a logical conclusion from their observation of nature's cycles and dependencies. For them, recognizing this web of connection was a direct source of steady confidence because it fundamentally changes your relationship to your own life. You are not an isolated actor on a lonely stage. You are a vital note in a grand cosmic symphony. Your actions, guided by reason, naturally contribute to the harmony of the whole. This perspective dissolves the heavy weight of feeling alone in your struggles and replaces it with the confidence of belonging. Marcus Aurelius returned to this thought often, reminding himself, what brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee. And in another passage he wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids." His confidence as an emperor stemmed not from his individual power, but from seeing himself as a citizen of the world, fulfilling a necessary role within the universal community. When you internalize this, your confidence gains a new dimension. It is no longer just about personal resilience. It is about participating in something larger than yourself. Your rational choices are not just good for you, they are good for the whole. This shifts motivation from a narrow self-interest to a meaningful contribution, which is a far more stable and energizing foundation for action. Think of a time you felt utterly isolated in a professional setback or a personal hardship. The modern mind often amplifies this into a story of unique failure, as if you are the only one who has ever faced this particular wall. The feeling of isolation erodes confidence because it makes the challenge feel disproportionately large and unsupported. The Stoic shift through Sympatheia is to see this not as your private burden, but as a shared thread in the universal human experience. You are not the first person to face rejection, to make an error, to feel uncertainty. This struggle connects you to every other person who has ever dared to try something difficult. From this place of connection, your next action changes. Instead of retreating into shame, you might reach out for perspective, turning isolation into collaboration. Instead of hiding a mistake, you might share the lesson, strengthening your team. Your confidence to act returns because you are now acting as part of a network, drawing strength from your inherent belonging to the human race. Even helping others in a small way during your own difficulty reinforces this, proving your agency and your place in the reciprocal flow of support. So here is a question to sit with, one that applies Sympatheia directly to your life right now. How does seeing your current struggle as part of a universal human experience change your relationship to it? Does it shrink the monster of isolation? Does it open a door to seeking connection or offering understanding where you once might have built a wall? This cosmic perspective assures you that your reasoned actions, however small they seem, send ripples through the living organism of the world, contributing to an order far greater than any single outcome. For a Stoic, the ultimate guidebook for confidence is written in nature itself. This is not about hiking or sunshine, but about understanding two profound layers of reality. The first is human nature, which the Stoics defined as our capacity for reason and our innate drive for social connection. The second is cosmic nature, the rational, orderly process by which the entire universe unfolds. Living in agreement with both, they taught, is the very purpose of life and the source of unshakable confidence. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno, stated this goal simply: to live in agreement with nature. When your actions are aligned with this double-layered reality, doubt falls away because you have a reliable, external standard against which to measure your choices. You are no longer guessing or reacting to fleeting emotions. You are following a deeper current. Your confidence becomes the quiet certainty of a river flowing to the sea. It is simply doing what it is designed to do. Confidence, then, is not a feeling you manufacture. It is a natural byproduct of this alignment. It emerges when you use your reason, your uniquely human gift, to fulfill your social roles with cooperation and kindness. You are built to think clearly and to contribute to your community. Any action that honors both of these aspects of your nature will feel congruent and right, generating an authentic confidence from within. The Stoic philosopher Clean saw the entire cosmos as a manifestation of divine reason, and he urged us to lead the life that nature demands. This means seeing your personal journey not as a separate struggle, but as a conscious participation in a vast, intelligent whole. Your reasoned choices are, in a very real sense, the universe thinking and acting through you. From this perspective, hesitation often stems from acting against your own nature, perhaps by suppressing your reason out of fear, or by acting against your social instinct through selfishness. Consider a common dilemma at work. A project is behind schedule, and you discover a colleague made a significant error that contributed to the delay. The impulsive, self-protective reaction might be to quietly distance yourself from the problem, to let the blame fall where it may, to safeguard your own reputation. This path creates immediate internal conflict, a friction against your nature. It asks you to suppress reason, which knows the truth, and to act against your social instinct, which calls for teamwork and fairness. The anxiety and dissonance you feel are signals of misalignment. There is no confidence there, only the brittle tension of guarding a secret. Now, the aligned, natural action guided by Stoic principles uses reason for the benefit of the team. You approach your colleague privately with the assumption it was a mistake, not malice. You speak with clarity and a focus on solutions, not blame. You might say, "I noticed this discrepancy in the data, and I am concerned it's putting us behind. How can we fix this together before the next review?" This action uses reason to diagnose and solve. It honors your social role as a cooperative team member. It is an action in agreement with both your human nature and the cosmic nature of a harmonious, orderly endeavor. Walking away from that conversation, your confidence is steady. It does not depend on whether your colleague is grateful or defensive. It comes from knowing you acted in accordance with the person you choose to be, a rational and social being fulfilling your role. So here is a reflective prompt to sit with, one that turns this ancient ideal into a modern mirror. Is your current path in your work or your relationships aligned with your nature as a rational, social being? Where might you be forcing against it? Perhaps you are in a role that constantly asks you to compromise your ethics, silencing your reason. Perhaps you are isolating yourself when a part of you longs to contribute, ignoring your social instinct. That feeling of persistent friction, that draining sense of acting out a part, is often the clearest sign. The confident path is not necessarily the easiest one, but it is the one that resolves that internal conflict by bringing your actions into harmony with the deepest truths of what you are. The Stoics sought out discomfort to make the world less intimidating. This practice, called voluntary discomfort, is a deliberate form of mental and physical training. It is the opposite of seeking constant ease. By periodically choosing to embrace a manageable hardship, you are not punishing yourself. You are conducting a live experiment in your own resilience. You are proving to your deepest self that you can endure difficulty, that you can choose purpose over pleasure, and in doing so, you drain the fear from future challenges. Your confidence grows from a profound source, the lived knowledge that you are tougher than you think. Seneca famously practiced this by setting aside days to live on simple bread and water, to wear his oldest cloak, and to sleep on a hard bed. He wrote that he did this so that he would not fear in earnest what he had often rehearsed in play. His goal was to appreciate his comforts more deeply by temporarily setting them aside, and more importantly, to test and affirm his own fortitude. He was building an inner certainty that his peace did not depend on external conditions. This is the core of the confidence it builds, a trust in your own capacity to endure, which makes the unpredictable nature of life far less frightening. Modern life offers endless opportunities to automate away discomfort, but that often leaves our resilience muscles weak. A modern equivalent is not about deprivation for its own sake, but about intentional practice. It could be taking the harder, hillier route on your morning run when the flat path is easier. It could be a 24-hour fast from all social media and digital entertainment, confronting the quiet and your own restless thoughts. It could be finally having that direct but kind conversation you have been avoiding, willingly stepping into the temporary discomfort of emotional honesty for the sake of a clearer relationship. Each of these acts is a small declaration. You are telling yourself that comfort is a preference, not a requirement for your stability. When you voluntarily pass on a second dessert, you are not just practicing discipline, you are reminding yourself that you are in command of your desires. When you choose to work on a complex problem without distraction, you are building tolerance for the mental strain that accompanies growth. The next time an involuntary hardship arrives, an unexpected bill, a stressful travel delay, a personal rejection, you will meet it with a different kind of confidence. You will have a memory bank of moments where you chose the harder right over the easier wrong, and you endured. The new challenge is no longer a terrifying unknown. It is simply another exercise in the same gym where you have already built strength. So here is a direct and personal challenge for you. What one small, voluntary discomfort can you embrace this week to remind yourself of your own resilience? It must be safe and manageable, but it should feel like a genuine choice to step slightly outside your zone of habitual ease. Could you take a cooler shower tomorrow morning? Could you leave your phone in another room for an evening? Could you complete a tedious chore you have been putting off with full attention? Do not make it a punishment. Frame it as training. Each moment of chosen difficulty is a brick in the fortress of your confidence, proving to you, beyond any doubt, that you are built to endure far more than you typically ask of yourself. Before you react, insert a comma in your mind. This is the Stoic Pause, the single most practical technique for building confidence through response, not reaction. It is the physical and mental space where everything we have discussed, from the dichotomy of control to cognitive distancing, becomes a lived reality. That tiny gap between a triggering event and your reply is the birthplace of true confidence, because it is the moment you reclaim your sovereignty from impulse. Epictetus described this power when he taught, "Do not be carried away by the vividness of the impression." The pause is how you heed that command. It is you choosing not to be carried away. In that comma, you move from a state of being acted upon to a state of acting from principle. Your confidence is no longer about suppressing emotion, but about having the space to decide what that emotion means and what you will do with it. Consider a provocation in traffic. Another driver cuts you off abruptly. The raw impression is a flash of heat, a surge of anger, a narrative of disrespect. The body tenses, the foot may hover near the brake, the hand might itch for the horn. Without the pause, you are that reaction. You are the shout, the aggressive tailgating, the dangerous escalation that ruins your own peace and solves nothing. Now insert the comma. You feel the surge, and instead of it becoming action, you take one deliberate, deep breath. In that 3-second space, reason has room to speak. It asks the Stoic questions. Is this driver's action within my control? No. Is my safety and my peace of mind within my control? Absolutely. What would a confident rather than a reactive person do? The confident person, anchored in what they control, lets the anger wash through without letting it steer the car. They might even feel a flicker of pity for someone in such a hurry. They choose safety and their own tranquility over a futile battle for roadside justice. The event was the same. The outcome for your character and your day is entirely different. This applies just as powerfully to digital spaces. You read a heated comment directed at you or your ideas online. The impression is immediate, a defensive clench, a flood of clever retorts. The reactive path is to fire back, to win the point, to defend your digital territory. But the pause creates a moment of choice. In that space, you can ask, what is my goal here? Is it to prove a stranger wrong, or is it to maintain my own integrity? A confident response might be no response at all, a conscious decision not to enter an arena where reason has left the conversation. Or it might be a single, calm sentence that clarifies without attacking. The pause allowed you to choose your battlefield, rather than having it chosen for you by someone else's provocation. So here is a direct instruction, a 24-hour experiment in building this muscle. For the next full day, practice creating a 3-second pause before responding to any minor irritation. The slow barista, the spilled coffee, the noisy neighbor, the critical email. In that pause, simply breathe and observe the impression. Do not judge it, just notice it. Then make your choice. You will discover that most of these irritations do not deserve your voice, your energy, or your peace. And in that discovery, you will feel a new kind of confidence growing, the quiet assurance that you are no longer a puppet to every pull of the world's strings. The most powerful Stoic confidence-building tool might be a notebook and 10 minutes at night. This is the practice of prosoche, a Greek word meaning attention, a vigilant self-awareness cultivated through deliberate reflection. It transforms the simple act of journaling from a diary of events into a training ground for your character, systematically building the self-knowledge that is the bedrock of authentic confidence. By reviewing your day with gentle honesty, you are not dwelling on mistakes. You are conducting a daily audit of your judgments and your alignment with virtue, turning experience into wisdom. Marcus Aurelius left us the ultimate example of this practice in his personal writings, which we now call meditations. Those pages were not for publication. They were his nightly dialogue with himself, a space to reinforce his principles, correct his course, and strengthen his resolve. He was building his inner citadel one written sentence at a time, and you can do the same. The process is beautifully simple. At the end of your day, you open your notebook and ask yourself a few structured questions. What did I do well today? Look for moments, however small, where you acted with patience, courage, or integrity. This is not arrogance, it is essential reinforcement, proving to yourself that you are capable of virtuous action. Where did I let an external disturb my peace? Here, you identify the impression that hooked you, the moment you perhaps assented to a judgment of fear or frustration. And most importantly, how can I improve tomorrow? This turns insight into intention, planning one concrete, virtuous action for the day ahead. This nightly ritual builds confidence in a profound way. It moves your self-assessment from a vague, emotional feeling into a clear, reasoned process. You stop seeing yourself as a fixed character and start seeing yourself as a work in progress, guided by your own conscious attention. For instance, recall a situation today where you felt a flicker of insecurity, perhaps in a meeting where you hesitated to share an idea. In your journal tonight, you would not just write, "I felt shy." You would examine it. The Stoic assessment might note, "I had the impression that my idea was not valuable enough." I assented to that impression without testing it against my preparation. Tomorrow, I will commit to voicing one contribution, focusing on the value of the idea itself, not on the reaction it receives. This shifts the source of your confidence from hoping others will validate you to validating your own commitment to contribute. So here is a direct and personal question for your own reflection. What would you write tonight about a single situation from today where you felt a lack of confidence? What would the honest, stoic assessment of that moment be, focusing not on the outcome, but on your judgments and your potential for a more virtuous response tomorrow? That notebook is your personal dialogue with the ideal version of yourself. The Stoics called this perfect model the sage, a conceptual figure of flawless wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. While no human has ever fully attained this state, contemplating the sage provides something invaluable, a true north for your moral compass. It is a guiding star that cuts through the fog of conflicting desires and social pressures, offering a clear standard that builds immense confidence in your decisions. You are no longer guessing, you are aligning with an ideal. The question shifts from what is easiest or most profitable to a far more powerful one. What would a person of perfect wisdom and courage do in my shoes? This is not about comparing yourself to an impossible standard and feeling inadequate. It is about using that standard as a directional tool, a way to elevate your thinking above the noise of the moment. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus spoke of this often, urging his students to set before your eyes the example of the great and good. He was pointing them toward this ideal, not to worship it, but to measure their progress against it. When you are uncertain, invoking this model provides instant clarity, because the sage path is always the path of virtue, of reason applied for the common good. Your confidence grows from knowing your direction is sound, even if your steps are imperfect. Consider a modern ethical dilemma at work. You discover a loophole in a reporting system that could allow your team to claim credit for work that was slightly outside the project's official scope, making your quarterly results look stronger. The immediate, self-interested questions are what is easiest. What helps my career? What will my boss want to see? These questions lead to anxiety and moral compromise, eroding your confidence because you are basing your choice on unpredictable external rewards. Now apply the sage model. Ask yourself, what would a person of perfect integrity and wisdom do here? The answer becomes strikingly clear. The sage values justice and honesty above a temporary advantage. The sage understands that true confidence and reputation are built on a foundation of truth, not clever manipulation. The sage would choose to report the results accurately, perhaps even noting the discrepancy to improve the system for everyone. This path, while potentially less flashy in the short term, fills you with a quiet, steady confidence. You know your action was aligned with a timeless principle, not a fleeting opportunity. The outcome is now secondary to the rightness of the choice itself. This practice extends beyond major dilemmas into everyday moments of patience, kindness, and discipline. Faced with a frustrating interaction, you might ask, how would the sage respond to provocation? The answer is with understanding and calm, not with reactive anger. Contemplating that ideal creates a space between impulse and action, allowing you to choose the higher road. Your confidence in social situations transforms because you are no longer trying to manage others' perceptions. You are managing your own character according to a noble standard. So here is a reflective prompt to make this personal. Choose a role model, historical or living, who embodies Stoic qualities to you. It could be a figure like Marcus Aurelius for his disciplined reflection, or perhaps a teacher, a community leader, or a family member known for their unshakable calm and integrity. What one specific trait of theirs can you consciously emulate in your own behavior this week? Is it their patience in listening, their courage in speaking truth, their resilience in the face of setbacks? By focusing on a single, attainable quality, you bring the ideal of the sage down to earth, building your confidence one virtuous action at a time. Stoic confidence requires a radical redefinition of what you consider to be yours. The ancient Stoics called this process Oikeiosis, a word often translated as appropriation or familiarization. It is the art of aligning your deepest sense of self, your identity, with what is truly and unshakably your own, your faculty of rational choice. When you correctly identify what belongs to you, a profound and steady confidence naturally follows because you have anchored yourself to the one thing no outside force can ever take. The philosopher Epictetus drew a clear boundary around this true possession. He taught that our body, our possessions, our reputation, and even the people we love while we care for them are not truly ours in the ultimate sense. They are on loan from the universe, subject to change and loss. What is authentically ours, he said, is our proheresis, our ruling faculty, our capacity to choose our judgments, our intentions, and our actions. Confidence blossoms when we stop claiming ownership over the storm and instead fully inhabit the helm. We feel insecure and fragile when we mistakenly believe our self-worth is tied to things outside that inner citadel. Think of the modern habit of introducing yourself by your job title. I am a manager or I am an engineer. There is a practical clarity to it, but a Stoic would see a subtle danger in that identification. That title is an external, a preferred indifferent. It can be given, and it can be taken away through restructuring, economic shifts, or simple corporate politics. If your confidence is built on that title, its loss feels like a loss of self. Oikeiosis asks you to shift that identification inward. Instead of I am a manager, the deeper truth is, I am a person who exercises judgment, leads with fairness, and solves complex problems. Those capacities are yours. They are expressions of your proheresis. A company can remove your title, but it cannot remove your ability to think clearly, to act with diligence, or to lead where you are. Your confidence remains because you never misplaced it in the first place. You kept it where it always was, within your own reasoned choice. This applies powerfully to personal relationships as well. We often speak of my friends or my partner, framing them as possessions that bolster our social confidence. But people, in their freedom, are the ultimate externals. Oikeiosis does not mean loving them less, but loving them more wisely, by recognizing that the true possession is your own capacity to be a loyal, understanding, and virtuous friend or partner. Your confidence in connection then stems from your own commitment to those virtues, not from the unpredictable behavior of another. You fulfill your role with integrity, and that action, that choice, is wholly and permanently yours. So here is a question for quiet reflection. What do you currently consider yours that, in the Stoic sense, is actually an indifferent? Is it your social status, your physical appearance, your financial portfolio, or a specific outcome you are clinging to? How does mentally placing it outside the walls of your true self, while still caring for it appropriately, shift your perspective and free your confidence? The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words not from a place of ease, but from the front lines of war and plague. He was practicing a profound mental alchemy, turning every external obstacle into the raw material for building greater confidence and capability. This is not positive thinking. It is a radical form of recycling where the very things we resist become the fuel for our inner fire. The obstacle is not a blockade on your path, it is the path itself, and walking it is how your confidence becomes unbreakable. Marcus expanded on this idea, writing, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. For the Stoic, a setback is an invitation to practice a specific virtue. A delay is not a frustration, it is an arena for patience. A difficult person is not a nuisance, they are a sparring partner for your empathy and self-control." Every time you engage with the obstacle through the lens of virtue, you are not just solving a problem, you are conducting a live training exercise in your own strength. You are proving to yourself in real time that you are more resourceful, more resilient, and more capable than the obstacle suggests. This is the alchemy of confidence, transforming leaden barriers into golden skill. Consider a modern professional scenario. You are leading a project you are deeply passionate about, and halfway through, you receive the news your budget has been cut significantly. The initial, raw impression is one of defeat. This is a disaster. My vision is ruined. I cannot possibly succeed now. If you assent to that impression, your confidence plummets. You might complain, resent the decision makers, or give up on the project's original ambition. But the Stoic alchemist sees the same news and asks a different question. What virtue does this obstacle now invite me to practice? The answer might be resourcefulness. The budget cut is not a block. It is the specific fuel for building your muscle of innovation. It forces you to scrutinize every expense, to discover more efficient methods, to collaborate more creatively with your team, and to prioritize the project's absolute core value. The skills you develop under these constrained conditions, the creative solutions you forge, become a permanent part of your professional toolkit. Your confidence is no longer tied to having ample resources. It is now rooted in the proven knowledge that you can create value even when resources are thin. The obstacle did not diminish you, it revealed and expanded your capabilities. This principle applies to personal challenges with equal force. A period of physical recovery, for instance, can feel like an obstacle to your usual vitality. Turned upside down, it becomes the raw material for cultivating patience, for listening to your body with new respect, and for discovering mental resilience when physical activity is limited. The confidence you build is in your ability to adapt and find strength in stillness, a form of courage that is often overlooked. So here is a direct and practical challenge for you. Identify one current obstacle in your life, large or small. It could be a logistical headache, a creative block, a strained communication, or a financial pinch. Now pause and reframe it through this Stoic alchemy. Ask yourself, what single virtue could this situation become fuel for? Is it an opportunity to practice calm persistence? Is it a call to exercise creative problem solving? Is it a lesson in letting go of perfectionism? By naming the virtue, you transform the obstacle from a foe to a teacher. Your confident action is no longer about removing the barrier, but about engaging with it as your chosen training ground. Your past failures and future worries are illusions. Your power is here. This is the Stoic's ultimate arena, the single point in all of existence where your confidence can actually be applied. The past is a collection of memories, a story you tell yourself. The future is a projection, a narrative you imagine. Both are mental constructs, and neither one is a place where you can take any action whatsoever. The present moment, this breath, this very sentence, is the only domain where your faculty of choice, your prohesis, is operational. Confidence, then, is not a feeling you summon about tomorrow's outcome. It is the full, undivided application of your capability to the task directly in front of you. Seneca saw how we squander this power, writing, "We are taxed by both the past and the future." The present is small, he noted, yet we find ways to make even that small portion heavy. We burden the now with regret for what is gone and anxiety for what may come, draining our capacity to act with any certainty at all. Stoicism trains a laser focus on the current, manageable step. It asks, what can I do right now with what I have where I am? That is the birthplace of all real confidence. Take the common experience of public speaking anxiety. Where does that shaky feeling truly live? It is almost never about the present moment of standing quietly before you begin. It is anchored entirely in the imagined future. You are rehearsing the audience's potential boredom, their judgment, their silent criticism. You are playing a horror movie in your mind of a future that has not happened and may never happen. Your confidence evaporates because you have left the arena. You are trying to fight a phantom in a time that does not exist. The Stoic method pulls you back firmly to the now. The confident focus is not on the audience's future reaction, a thing entirely outside your control. The confident focus is on the current sentence you are speaking. It is on delivering these words right now with as much clarity and sincerity as you can muster. It is on connecting with a single idea, with the breath that supports your voice, with the genuine intention to share something of value. Your power resides in pronouncing this syllable, then the next one. When your mind wanders to a future judgment, you gently return it to the present task. The speech is not a monolithic monster to be conquered. It is a series of present moments to be inhabited, one after another. Your confidence becomes the steady rhythm of that return, again and again, to what you can actually do. This principle transforms mundane tasks as well. Consider writing a report, or cleaning a room, or learning a new skill. The moment your mind leaps ahead to the sheer volume of work remaining, or jumps back to critique the quality of your last attempt, your energy scatters. You feel overwhelmed, and confidence in your ability to complete the task plummets, but the work itself only ever exists in the now. You are not writing a whole report, you are composing this single paragraph. You are not cleaning an entire house, you are wiping this one counter. The confidence to finish is built solely from the confidence to fully engage with this immediate, manageable piece. The Stoic trains to meet each moment as its own complete world, bringing the full force of their attention and choice to it, and then releasing it to move to the next. So here is a direct instruction, a 5-minute experiment in reclaiming your arena. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Choose any simple activity, washing dishes, organizing a drawer, drafting an email, or even just sitting and breathing. For those 5 minutes, commit fully to that activity without mental commentary about the past or future. Do not judge your performance. Do not plan the next step beyond the immediate one. If you are washing a dish, feel the temperature of the water, see the soap bubbles, notice the motion of your hand. If your mind drifts to a worry or a memory, acknowledge it softly and return to the sensory details of the task. For these 5 minutes, your entire universe is this action. Notice what happens to that familiar background hum of anxiety. Notice the quiet confidence that emerges from simple, undiluted engagement. This is not a trivial exercise. It is a micro-training in where your true power has always resided, and where your most steady confidence will always be found. Stoics say you can confidently pursue success without needing it for your confidence. This is the subtle yet profound paradox at the heart of their concept of indifference. To the Stoic, the only true good is a virtuous character. Everything else in life, from our physical health and financial security to our social standing and career achievements, falls into a separate category. They called these things indifferents, not because they do not matter, but because they do not determine our moral worth or our capacity for a good life. We are free to prefer some indifference over others, to wisely pursue health over illness, prosperity over poverty, a good reputation over disgrace. These are the preferred indifferents. But our confidence, our self-worth, our very happiness must be anchored in something unshakable, our own virtue. The moment we mistakenly treat a preferred indifferent as if it were essential, we hand over the keys to our peace. Our confidence becomes tied to the whims of the market, the opinions of others, or the fragility of the human body. The ancient Stoics used a powerful analogy to explain this. Life is like a game of ball. We play to win, that is the preferred indifferent. We put skill and effort into our throw. But our true happiness, our confidence as a player, does not come from the final score, which depends on the other players, the bounce of the ball, and sheer luck. It comes from how well we played, from our focus, our strategy, and our sportsmanship. Those are the virtues entirely within our power. We can play an excellent game and still lose, and our confidence in our ability remains intact because it was never about the trophy. It was about the quality of our engagement. This correct valuation liberates your confidence in the modern world. Take social media, a landscape built on preferred indifference. It is perfectly natural to prefer that your post receives likes and positive comments. There is nothing wrong with enjoying that engagement or using it as a signal of resonance. But a Stoic confidence asks you to place the value correctly. Your confidence must be rooted in why you posted, in the integrity of your message, in the authenticity of your sharing. Did you post to contribute something of value, to express a creative idea, to connect meaningfully? That is the virtuous action, the game well played. The number of likes is the score, a preferred indifferent influenced by algorithms, timing, and the scrolling moods of strangers. If your confidence depends on that number, you are setting yourself up for a roller coaster. One day you are on top of the world, the next you are questioning your worth. But if your confidence is in the act of posting with integrity, then the metric becomes feedback, not a verdict. You can analyze it calmly, learn from it, or choose to disregard it, all while your core self-trust remains steady. The same principle applies to your career. You can confidently pursue a promotion, a raise, or a prestigious project. These are preferred indifference. You prepare, you network, you deliver exceptional work. But your confidence is not held hostage by the outcome. It is built on the virtues you demonstrate in the pursuit, your diligence, your teamwork, your ethical conduct. You can play the game to win, yet be perfectly content if you do not, because your value was never on the line, only your performance was. So here is a question for your own reflection. What preferred indifferent in your life do you currently treat as if it were absolutely essential to your confidence? Is it a particular title at work, a certain number in your bank account, the approval of a specific person, or the maintenance of a particular lifestyle? Now, imagine for a moment what would change if you mentally moved it from the category of essential to the category of merely preferred. How would your approach to pursuing it shift? Would your confidence feel lighter, more durable, less at the mercy of forces you cannot control? This recalibration is not about giving up on your goals. It is about securing your peace so you can pursue them with even greater clarity and courage. The Stoics had a two-word phrase that unlocked fearless effort. They called it the reserve clause, a quiet mental addition to every plan you make. After stating your intention, you silently append the words, fate permitting, or if nothing prevents it. This is not a sign of doubt or weak commitment. It is the ultimate act of confident realism. It acknowledges the simple truth that the world has a say, while simultaneously freeing you to pour your entire being into the part you control. Your effort becomes detached from the specific outcome, yet more powerful because it is focused, pure, and free from the anxiety of needing to control the uncontrollable. Seneca captured this perfectly when he advised, "Let all your efforts be directed to something, let it keep that end in view, but do not count on its happening." You can direct your ship, but you cannot command the sea. The reserve clause is how you confidently set your sails while respecting the ocean. It builds a confidence that is both bold and humble, intense and relaxed, because your self-worth is no longer staked on the final result. You are betting on your own virtue, not on fortune's favor. Think of launching a new business or creative project. The modern, pressure-filled approach is to tie your entire identity to its success. You say, "I will make this a massive hit." This statement ignores the market, the economy, the tastes of an audience, 1,000 variables outside your command. The weight of that absolute prediction creates a brittle confidence that shatters at the first sign of difficulty. Now, apply the Stoic reserve clause. Your confident declaration becomes, "I will develop the most valuable product and execute the most thoughtful plan I can, fate permitting." This shifts everything. Your energy is no longer divided between effort and the desperate need for a specific outcome. It is fully channeled into the quality of your work, the only domain where you are truly sovereign. You research more diligently because you are focused on excellence, not just on a win. You listen to feedback more openly because it is data to improve your craft, not a personal attack on a guaranteed future. If the project succeeds, you enjoy the result without it defining you. If it meets challenges, your confidence is not broken because your primary goal, the act of excellent effort, was already achieved. The clause protected your peace, allowing you to engage with the process wholeheartedly without desperation. It turns striving from a tense gamble into a confident expression of your capabilities. So here is a direct exercise for you. Take a goal you are currently stressing about, one where you feel the heavy pressure of a required outcome. Now mentally add the reserve clause to it. Say to yourself, I will prepare for this interview with total thoroughness and present myself with authenticity, fate permitting. Or I will train for this race with consistent discipline and give my all on the day if nothing prevents it. Feel the subtle but profound shift in your chest. The crushing weight of guaranteeing the result lifts. What remains is the clear, manageable space for your own committed action. How does this change your emotional investment in the process? Does it make the work itself feel lighter, more focused, and even more worthy of your full confidence? Long before the word globalization entered our vocabulary, Stoic philosophers declared themselves citizens of the universe. They called this idea cosmopolitanism, seeing the entire world as their city and every human being as a fellow citizen. This was not a political statement but a profound shift in identity. It moved the source of confidence from winning within your small tribe to contributing to the grand human story. When you see yourself as a citizen of the world, the petty status games and local prejudices that fuel so much of our social anxiety begin to lose their grip. Your confidence is no longer measured by your rank in a single room, but by the integrity of your actions within the human community. The philosopher Diogenes, a powerful influence on early Stoicism, was once asked where he was from. His famous reply was, "I am a citizen of the world." He was rejecting the narrow loyalties that divide people and declaring his primary allegiance to reason and shared humanity. Centuries later, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius would write in his private meditations, constant awareness that everything is born from change. The knowledge that there is nothing nature loves more than to alter what exists and make new things like them. For a cosmopolitan, this constant change includes the borders of nations, the rise and fall of social cliques, and the fleeting nature of any single group's approval. What remains constant is our shared capacity for reason and our common need for cooperation. Confidence, from this vantage point, springs from acting in accordance with that shared reason for the common good. It is the confidence of a person who knows they are playing a long game for a purpose far larger than personal applause. This transforms everyday interactions, especially in environments ripe with tribal anxiety like office politics. Most workplace insecurity comes from a narrow view, seeing colleagues as competitors for a limited amount of recognition, jockeying for favor within the small kingdom of your department. Your confidence wobbles with every perceived slight or shift in alliance. The cosmopolitan sees the same office through a wider lens. They see an organization, a community of people with a shared purpose, however imperfectly pursued. Their confident action is not aimed at personal advancement at the expense of others, but at the health and success of the whole system. They share credit freely, they mentor newcomers, they communicate with transparency, not because it is a naive strategy, but because it is the just and rational way to act as a citizen of that professional community. This does not make them a pushover, it makes them a leader. Their confidence is steady because it is rooted in the unwavering principle of contributing value, a principle that remains valid regardless of who gets the credit today. The respect that follows is a byproduct, not the goal. So let us bring this directly into a moment of tension. Think of a current or recent conflict, perhaps with a neighbor, a family member, or a colleague. How would your next action change if you saw this person first and foremost as a fellow citizen of the world, as another rational being struggling through the human experience, just like you, before you saw them as your opponent? Would your approach soften from accusation to curiosity? Would your goals shift from winning the argument to understanding a different perspective within the shared city? This simple reframe is a powerful exercise in cosmopolitan confidence. It allows you to act from a place of strength and principle, not from a narrow, defensive tribe. Your confidence comes from upholding your duty to the common good, even and especially when it is difficult. What if your confidence is being held hostage by your possessions? We often build our sense of self on a foundation of what we own, the comforts we rely on, the lifestyle we maintain. It feels solid until the smallest tremor of financial uncertainty or unexpected loss reveals how fragile that confidence truly is. The Stoics prescribed a radical antidote to this vulnerability, a practice they called voluntary poverty. This was not a life of destitution, but a deliberate, temporary simplification, a live experiment to prove to yourself that your happiness and your capability are not products of your abundance. It is the ultimate test of your correct valuation of indifference, showing you that while you may prefer comfort, you do not require it to be whole. By periodically stepping away from your extras, you build a profound confidence in your own enoughness, a trust that you can thrive with less, which makes the world far less threatening. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus championed this practice, arguing that luxury was not just unnecessary, but a form of slavery. He taught that by learning to be content with little, we free ourselves from the endless anxiety of acquiring and protecting more. Seneca echoed this, writing in one of his letters that it is not the person who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves more. Their point was not to condemn wealth, but to condemn the dependency on it. When your peace of mind is tied to maintaining a certain standard of living, you are perpetually at the mercy of markets, misfortunes, and the opinions of others. The practice of poverty severs that chain, not by getting rid of your things, but by proving to yourself that they are not the source of your strength. A modern version of this is remarkably simple and revealing. Designate a single day, perhaps this coming weekend, as a voluntary poverty day. For 24 hours, commit to using only the most basic necessities. Wear your simplest, most comfortable clothes. Eat simple, inexpensive meals you prepare yourself, like rice and vegetables. Forego any entertainment purchases, streaming services, or dining out. Turn off non-essential notifications. The goal is not to suffer, but to observe. Notice the mental space that opens up when you are not managing, consuming, or deciding between countless options. Feel the quiet self-reliance that comes from meeting your fundamental needs with intention. You may discover a surprising clarity, a confidence that emerges not from what you have, but from who you are when the noise of abundance is turned down. This practice is a fire drill for the soul, proving you can evacuate the mansion of luxury and still be perfectly safe, capable, and even content in the humble cottage of your own resilience. So here is your direct instruction. Conduct a quiet audit of your own attachments. Ask yourself, what one possession, comfort, or lifestyle element do I secretly fear losing the most? Is it your car, your smartphone, your curated wardrobe, your daily coffee ritual, or the security of a consistent paycheck? Now, do not just acknowledge it. Imagine in concrete detail life without it for one full month. Not as a catastrophe, but as a temporary condition. What adjustments would you make? What simpler pleasures or hidden skills might you rediscover? And most importantly, after stripping that away, what remains of you? Your character, your relationships, your ability to think and adapt. These are the unshakable foundations. This mental exercise is not about inviting loss, but about exercising the fear of it. When you know, deep in your bones, that you are enough without the extras, you walk through the world with a different kind of confidence, one that cannot be repoed, cancelled, or taken away. Stoic physics has nothing to do with equations or atoms. It is the study of a universe governed by a single, rational principle, a cosmos where every event is woven into a vast, comprehensible web of cause and effect. This understanding is a profound source of confidence because it systematically replaces the fear of a chaotic, random, or malicious world with the quiet assurance of an orderly one. For the Stoics, the universe was not a collection of accidents, but a living, intelligent entity they called the Logos. Everything that occurs, from the motion of the stars to the events of our daily lives, unfolds according to this rational, interconnected nature. When you internalize this, you stop seeing misfortune as a personal attack from a capricious fate and start seeing it as a link in a causal chain you can trace, understand, and respond to with reason. This shift is the difference between feeling victimized by chaos and feeling equipped to navigate a world that operates by laws. The Stoic philosopher Cleanthes expressed this beautifully in his hymn to Zeus, praising the Logos that guides all things with reason. Marcus Aurelius returned to this idea constantly in his private meditations, reminding himself to see the necessity in all that happens and to recognize that what occurs is neither strange nor unbearable, but familiar and endurable because it springs from the same source as he did. This is not a call to passive acceptance, but to active understanding. Confidence blooms from that understanding. Imagine the modern frustration of a suddenly cancelled flight. The default superstitious reaction is to personalize the event. You might think, of course this happens to me. The universe is conspiring against my plans today. This view is disempowering. It breeds anxiety and helplessness because you are at war with an invisible, irrational force. The Stoic physics perspective asks you to look for the causal chain. The cancellation was caused by a mechanical issue discovered during a safety check, which was caused by a sensor reading, which was influenced by temperature fluctuations during the previous flight. It is a sequence of physical causes and effects, not a metaphysical judgment on your worth or your day. This factual view immediately drains the emotional poison. Your energy is no longer spent on frustration at an unfair universe. It is freed up for rational problem solving. You calmly rebook, you adjust your schedule, you find a quiet corner to work. Your confidence remains steady because your peace was never based on everything going perfectly. It was based on your ability to understand and adapt to the logical flow of events as they actually are. This applies to more personal setbacks as well. A project at work falls through unexpectedly. The superstitious mind sees a dark omen, a sign of personal failure or bad luck. The mind trained in Stoic physics looks for the causes. Perhaps market research was incomplete, a key team member was overburdened, or client priorities shifted. Each of these is an identifiable, often preventable, link in a chain. This perspective gives you a confident way forward because you can analyze the causes, learn from them, and build a stronger chain for the next attempt. So here is a question to sit with, one that applies this physics to your own experience. When something you label as bad happens, what is your default setting? Do you immediately feel the sting of chaotic misfortune, or can you pause and trace the chain of causes? How does shifting your view from a story of persecution to a map of causality change your sense of control and your confidence to respond? The core Stoic insight has a powerful modern counterpart for building confidence. In the late 20th century, author Stephen Covey introduced a simple yet profound model he called the circle of influence, nestled inside a larger circle of concern. This is not a departure from Stoicism, but a brilliant modern synthesis, a practical map that shows exactly how focusing on your internal power, as Epictetus taught, actively expands your capacity for confident action in the world. Your circle of concern contains everything you worry about, from global events and economic trends to a neighbor's loud music or a colleague's unreliable habits. It is vast, often overwhelming, and largely outside your direct control. Inside it sits your circle of influence, the smaller, vital space containing everything you can actually affect: your own efforts, your communication, your immediate environment, your daily choices. The critical insight, one the ancient Stoics would have immediately recognized, is that these circles are not fixed. When you pour your energy and attention into your circle of concern, into complaining, worrying, and focusing on all the things you cannot change, your circle of influence actually shrinks. You feel powerless, anxious, and your confidence withers because you are constantly confronting your own limitations. But when you deliberately shift your focus to your circle of influence, to what you can do, something remarkable happens. That inner circle begins to expand. Your proactive energy makes you more capable. Your solutions create new opportunities, and your confidence grows in direct proportion to the tangible evidence of your own efficacy. This is the dynamic, living expression of the dichotomy of control. Epictetus stated that some things are within our power while others are not. Covey's model gives that principle a visual form and shows the consequence of where we place our focus. Confidence is not a static feeling you hope for. It is the natural result of watching your own sphere of impact grow through consistent, virtuous action. Consider a shared community concern, like a neglected local park littered with trash. Everyone in the neighborhood might be concerned, talking about the problem, complaining about the city's lack of funding, or blaming anonymous litterers. This is living entirely in the circle of concern. It generates frustration and communal helplessness. The Stoic, or the proactive individual applying this synthesis, asks a different question. What is within my circle of influence here? Perhaps you cannot single-handedly change city budgets or stop all littering, but you can organize. You can spend an hour this Saturday picking up trash yourself. You can post a simple invitation on a community board, inviting others to join you for a 1-hour clean-up. You can speak with a local business about donating trash bags. Each of these actions resides firmly within your influence. When you take them, something shifts, others may join, the park becomes slightly cleaner. Your small circle of influence has just expanded, not only physically cleaning a space, but influencing the morale and engagement of those around you. Your confidence soars not because you solved the entire problem, but because you moved from passive concern to engaged, effective action. You embodied the Stoic ideal of fulfilling your role as a citizen, focusing on your sphere and making a real difference. This framework applies to every arena of life. In your career, constantly worrying about industry layoffs or a difficult boss shrinks your influence. But focusing on your circle, on mastering a new skill, on improving your communication with your team, or on delivering exceptional work on your current project, expands it. You become more valuable, more adaptable, and your confidence grows from that solid foundation of enhanced capability. So here is a direct and practical exercise for you. Take a moment to mentally, or even on paper, draw your own 2 circles. In your large circle of concern, jot down the big, looming worries that occupy your mind. Then look within and clearly define your current circle of influence. What can you actually do now? Ask the pivotal question. What one single action firmly within your influence can you take today to expand it? It does not need to be grand. It could be initiating a clarifying conversation you have delayed, completing a small piece of a larger project, or simply choosing your response to a daily irritation with more patience. Each time you choose the inner circle, you are not just solving a problem, you are building the unshakable confidence that comes from knowing you are an active force in your own life. This entire journey circles back to a single, quiet truth. Stoic confidence is not something you find out in the world. It is something you build within yourself day by day. It is a skill forged in the small moments, in the 3-second pause before you react, in the nightly journal entry that turns experience into wisdom, in the deliberate choice to see an obstacle as your training ground. The core mechanism is a fundamental shift, moving the locus of your confidence from the shifting sands of externals, the outcomes, the opinions, the possessions you cannot command, to the inviolable internal realm, your own virtue and your capacity for reasoned choice. This is the fortress no outside storm can breach. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who spent his early life in servitude, arrived at perhaps the most liberating conclusion of all. He said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves. That mastery and the profound confidence it brings is found only in one place, within the sovereignty of your own will." Your challenge now is not to understand this all at once, but to begin. Choose just one practice from our exploration. Perhaps it is implementing the reserve clause on your next big goal, or conducting a single evening of journaling with Prosoche, or simply practicing the Stoic Pause tomorrow morning when the first irritation arises. Live with that one tool for a week, notice the subtle shift in your footing, the quiet assurance that begins to grow when you act from your circle of influence. We would love to hear which principle resonated most with you. Share your chosen practice in the comments below and join a community of others building their own unshakable confidence, one virtuous action at a time. If this path of practical philosophy speaks to you, subscribe for more guides to living with clarity and courage. Remember, the materials for your confidence have been within you all along. Now it is time to build.